What's up, everybody? We got a good one for you this week. We're talking to Sean Lundy, formerly of Drury Outdoors. He's now got his own company called Rugged Apparel, and he's kind of doing this Lundy life thing. Him and his son, kind of a family deal, just out there enjoying the great outdoors and getting back to kind of what it's all about. We had a great conversation talking about all that stuff with him, along as kind of his upbringing in the hunting world and how he kind of got into it all. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we get into it, don't forget about our sponsor for the podcast, Rodney Hawkins. If you guys are looking for your own piece of ground to manage and hunt, or if you got a piece of ground that you're looking to get on the market, Rodney's the guy to talk to. He grew up hunting and fishing in Southern Illinois, and he's now putting that love for the outdoors into selling recreational properties as a land specialist with Midwest Farm and Land. Now, they're not your average real estate company. They sold over $85 million worth of ground in 2022 alone. They've got agents like Rodney all over Illinois, so they're really a local company with a national reach. For more info on them or what might be available on the market, you can contact Rodney directly at 618-925-3153, and he'll get you taken care of. Also, he's started his own company called RHO Outdoors. He's currently got products from Radix Blinds. He's got Camo Dust, which is an all-natural scent elimination product. He's got burner self-defense weapons and Tacticam trail cameras, and he's all the time getting new stuff in the store. So if you're interested in anything they have to offer, you can send them a message through their Facebook page, RG Outdoors. Email them at rgoutdoors@yahoo.com, or again, just call Rodney directly at 618-925-3153. We also appreciate you guys following us on social media. If you don't, it's Ridgehunteroutdoors. Facebook and Instagram are going to be the two we use the most. We have our Facebook group where we posted about Sean coming up about an hour before we talk to him, actually, but I generally try to do that a little sooner, so if you guys do have questions, that way everybody can see it and you guys can get them posted in there so we can ask them. We'll also do some other exclusive stuff on there. We'll probably do a giveaway later this fall just for that group, but that is RHO Podcast Patrons. That's the group on Facebook, so make sure you join that. Ridgehunteroutdoors.com is our website. If you're interested in anything on there, whether that be our apparel, our scents, our food plot seed, or anything else that you see on there, use the discount code RHOPOD. That's all caps, no space, and you get 10% off your entire order. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, leave us a review. We really appreciate that. Follow us on either one of those. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and comment on any of those videos. We got one coming out soon from the cabin, so you guys can keep up with what we got going on there. And then we'll have some more updates from Jeff's and Nate's, hopefully, later this summer. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation with Sean Lundy here on episode number 87. This is the Ridge Hunter Outdoors podcast. Hey everybody. We got a guest on this week. You probably know him from Drury Outdoors. If you don't, maybe you know him as the giant bearded guy walking around the outdoor expos. Sean Lundy. First of all, Sean, thanks for coming on, man. And how are we doing?
Good. I'm glad to be on the show. I appreciate the invite, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Actually reached out to our mutual friend of ours, Alex DeBoard, and he said you'd be an awesome guy to have on. We're all the time looking for new guys, whether it's, we've had on some big names, we've had on some guys that you'd never heard of before, so it's cool to get to talk to kind of everybody on that spectrum, and looking forward to talking to you about some stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done a couple of podcasts with Alex and his guys. I mean, it's good because we usually start off on a topic and then we just, before you know it, we just get carried away.
Chasing rabbits.
They're definitely, they're a good bunch of guys to get into a talk with. So.
Oh, for sure. We've had Alex on before, and I've been talking to him quite a bit. So yeah, those are good guys. What we normally like to do is get into kind of your backgrounds for everybody listening. So those of the listeners that don't know you can kind of get an idea who you are. So kind of the first question I ask everybody is, who got you into hunting, and what age were you? Because, was it dad, grandpa? Was it a family friend, somebody else?
No, it was, I'm pretty blessed. I mean, it definitely was my father. And, when, here I am, I live in the Midwest, northern Indiana. So everyone's like, okay, a lot of people live in the Midwest, or even down south, and some of them good, just outdoor deer hunting states. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, they, think, well, it would just make sense for them to deer hunt. But believe it or not, I actually grew up in New York. Okay. So I was born and raised on Long Island, which Long Island's not actually a city. It's probably about 45 minutes to an hour from the city. So out there, we had a lot of, offshore fishing, saltwater fishing. There was some freshwater lakes and stuff. Now we did deer hunting and upland bird hunting and stuff, but for the most part, you had to travel. And I know it don't seem like a lot, but back then it did. We 2.5, 3 hours up into the Catskills and the Adirondack Mountains. And I can remember, even from a small age, we would, gosh, I got to be probably 8, 9 years old, give or take, where my dad would just take me out. A lot of times I would just sit next to him, sit on his lap, whatever, while we were deer hunting up in the mountains. But hunting out on the East Coast in the mountains, the Adirondacks and stuff out there, it was a lot different. But I think I learned a lot there. I mean, that's really kind of where I got my feet wet and stuff, because if you're able and successful enough to harvest a deer in a state like New York, and, when I came out west, like, I was kind of spoiled out here. You know what I'm saying?
It's
like, it's a very target rich environment. And there, at times, if you look at deer numbers, New York actually does have a good deer numbers, but there's a lot of timber. You don't have the agriculture fields and stuff for the most part, like you have in the Midwest and pinch points and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of why once I moved out west, it started to take off, because it is, once you get addicted into hunting and it just becomes part of your life.
Oh yeah.
You remember those special places, and moving out to the Midwest that a lot of people out here may take for granted. It's like, try hunting in New York, try hunting on the East Coast or the West Coast. You can't, Midwest is a special, special place.
No doubt about it.
I pretty much started ever since. I mean, usually it was just a couple weekends a year during the holidays, Thanksgiving break, stuff like that. And me and my whole family, we all hunted, but a lot of guys were just my brothers and sisters and stuff, like opening weekend, and then we do a lot of waterfowl hunting over on the Long Island Sound for a bunch of sea ducks and stuff like that. But I was, for some reason, I would just seem to be that one child that, when I get home from school, get done with wrestling practice or something, I couldn't convince my buddies or my brothers and stuff like that, hey, let's go out and try to pass shoot some ducks and stuff. They wouldn't. So, I mean, even as early as before I had my license, my dad would just drop me off by myself, on the Long Island Sound with a shotgun. And I'd say, hey, pick me up at dark, and it's just, when I left New York, not to fast forward things, but like when I eventually left New York, I was okay at sports. I was, pretty athletic kid and stuff, but like grade wise, no, I wasn't no Einstein, definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed, but
I can relate.
I love the outdoors. So I was like, man, growing up in New York, I'm either going to get in trouble, I'm going to end up dead, I'm going to end up in jail, or I'm just going to join the military. So I enlisted in the military, and while I was in the military, you start, you go to boot camp and come back, you start meeting guys from the Midwest. And it kind of blew my mind at a young age when they're like, oh man, I can't wait to get back home. And I remember one day after high school, I killed one of the biggest deer in my life. And it's like, well, how'd you kill a big deer on a Tuesday? And it's like, well, we get home and we go out after school. And you didn't do that in New York,
Right.
Long Island has bow hunting, a lot of good bow hunting now, but when I was growing up, you had to plan a vacation to go hunting. So coming visiting some of my buddies from the Midwest, and they're like, you go out there like, hey, we'll go hunting after work, or we'll go hunting or do whatever. But I was like, wait a minute, like, you guys literally walk out your back door, or go down the road. And I'll never forget, I told my parents, I said, hey, when I get out of the military, like, I'm moving Midwest. I'm currently in law enforcement now, but it didn't make a difference. I told them, like, I was probably never going to go back to the East Coast. I was going to have to do something to do where I can hunt and fish and just get involved in the outdoors all the time, year round. So that's kind of how I made my way out there.
There's a lot there. First of all, I didn't think that sounded like an Indiana accent.
No, when I go back to New York, it gets really bad. Like, if I'm there for all my kids, they were all born in Indiana, but so me and my wife, we've got 5 kids, but like, sometimes if we go to New York for a couple weeks, and we have, some years we might go back a couple times, some year we'll go back more than that, but the kids will start to catch up on it a little bit, talking to my siblings and stuff. But when I'm there after like 3 or 4 days, it gets bad.
It's almost a different language.
It's like, it's very fast. Like, people, they just, and then you come to the Midwest, it's like, man, everybody around here is about just grabbing a beer, relaxing, working hard all day, and just enjoying life. And in New York, it's just go, go, go all the time. So.
I can relate to your dad dropping you off. That's how kind of when I started hunting by myself. I must have been in, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade, probably out there with a bow, whatever age I could draw back the legal poundage, you know. And like you said, it was in my grandma and grandpa's backyard. Dad would drop me off and go to work and come pick me up at dark, you know, and I'm out there hunting by myself. So I get that. And then what you're talking about, hunting out there versus hunting over here, we talked to Steve Shirk several times from out in Pennsylvania. He does a lot of big woods hunting, and we've had that conversation before where if you can kill deer out there, the learning curve is a lot steeper to go from here to there, as opposed to like if you can kill deer out there, you're going to have a lot quicker success here. That's not to say it's going to be easy, because obviously it's not easy anywhere, but I think that skill set that you develop hunting those kind of deer and out there in that kind of terrain and stuff translates, I mean, the woodsmanship and all that stuff. It does make it a lot easier transition when you move out to the Midwest or somewhere like that.
Yeah, the signs out in the Midwest too, like just the simple things, like you talk about, you know, being in the big timber and stuff, like you did look for scrapes. You did look for runs. You did look for trails. Then you come out to the Midwest, and those scrapes and trails, whatever, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah.
One, because you don't have as much timber. You got more agriculture, so the deer are pinched down. So you're scouting, you know, a lot of times you'd be up in the mountains and you might have a week to get it done. You don't start figuring stuff out till day 3 or 4.
Right.
You know, you come out to the Midwest, you could show up somewhere and put on a new lease. And you guys are like, hey, well, we're going to go out there the first few days and do some scouting. I mean, there's a good chance you can get on a deer. And I'm not saying the biggest buck in the world, but just fill some coolers, shoot some does. You might be able to do that first evening. You go out that afternoon, you're like, okay, man, when we drove by yesterday, deer were piling out into here. You go in, you find that pinch point, you find that run trail, you play the wind right. It's just, it becomes so much easier in my mind, you know, so.
No doubt. Once you kind of figure out what they like to do and where they like to be, those places are everywhere, seems like, around here, where you can go find a spot where, okay, if I sit here, at some point something's going to come by. You know, like you said, it may not be the biggest deer in the world, but it'd be something to shoot. Whereas,
absolutely,
if you're out there in the big woods, or like where you're talking about in New York, you might sit there for 3 days and not see a deer in some places if you're in the wrong place. It's just it's not as easier to find where they're traveling or pattern them for that matter.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely, it's different hunting for sure. So.
Yeah, no doubt. So when did you start bow hunting whitetails?
I started when I was in New York, you know, and I wasn't, I guess success would out there and would kind of, I mean, success for bow hunting in my mind is success to be out there, whether you learn something new that day or you actually get on something and harvest it, you know, and that from leaving there and coming, you know, to the Midwest, bow hunting just took off for me from there because it was so much. I mean, with a rifle, and I've got nothing against it. You know, I talked just for a few seconds before we even started the podcast. It's like, that's kind of like when we broke away from Drew's and stuff, and it was all, you know, good terms. It was just me wanting to spend a little more time with my family, and my son, for people that have followed us, is growing up so fast. Like all my daughters and my wife and stuff, you know, they'll fish and turkey hunt and stuff like that. But my son, he's kind of like, he's going to blow me out of the water, you know, for how much he loves to hunt. So I felt like I want to spend a little more time with him and give him every opportunity in the world to do things. And even with the bow hunting, you know, when I was with Drew's, I think what kind of maybe helped me succeed a little bit there was being that everyday guy that hunted a lot of public land in New York, like, and then I'm coming to the Midwest, and here I am, you know, on TV, and, you know, I'm competing with guys, probably, you know, some of the best hunters in the world. These are who I'm competing with, and they're knocking down, you know, constantly 160, 170 inch deer. And here I am shooting 115, 120, 130 inch deer, and I'm happy as a pig and crap, you know, and people are relating to that. And I'm like, this is kind of like who we are. This is who Lundys are, you know. That's why when we broke away, we just kind of, Dad told my son, I said, we're just going to be, you know, just going to do Lundy life. You know, we're going to do social media promotions, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, couple now, you know, a couple guys, we're still filming our hunts, and our hunts are being seen like on friends of ours and guests of the shows and stuff, but it's just who we are. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, everyone strives to try to kill that booner or, that one in a lifetime 200 inch. And maybe it will happen, but reality is, like the way me and my son are, like the majority of the hunters out there, we're not going to have that opportunity every year.
Right.
So
Yep.
when I got into bow hunting, to me, like, that's what success is, to go out there with a gun. Yeah, I mean, not that it's not success, but it's a lot easier. You don't.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You don't have to take all the elements into it. But bow hunting, I mean, if you get out there and you harvest a mature doe, you've done something.
Absolutely.
It's fun. And so.
Yeah, it's a whole different game for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think what you're talking about there with that, just kind of the honest, this is what we're doing kind of thing, like the 115, 120 inch deer, just pure excitement about that kind of stuff. There's definitely an appetite for that. We've talked to a couple different groups who are trying to do similar stuff to that, some younger guys doing it. And then even just talking about guys like the hunting public, like they're so popular.
Yep.
I think for that reason, people want that kind of earnest, not necessarily always killing the 180-inch deer, but just being out there for the love of it. And not to say that those guys that do that aren't as well. I mean, there's a lot of genuine guys that are big time, but I think to a certain extent, a lot of people are kind of tired of seeing that run-of-the-mill thing that they know that they may never accomplish, and they want to see somebody doing what you're talking about.
Yeah. And when someone like ourselves go out there and we do harvest that booner, you almost see it, like when you watch a lot of these shows too, that, when people are killing these big deer, the excitement is there.
Mm-hmm.
But then you watch an everyday guy kill a 140-inch deer,
mm-hmm.
and they lose it. I mean, they're beside themselves. I mean, it's when I was in Kansas a couple years back on one of the critical mass shows, like, my buddy was teasing me, but like, we had this deer walk out, and and for some shows people say, oh, he was a mature deer. Bullcrap, man. He was a 3-year-old
yeah.
with a 6-7 inch drop time, and was on the Outdoor Channel a couple years back. And I think they edited it out, but my buddy's telling me, he's like, hey dude, like, this is like day 4, man. Like, you're here all week. Like, that deer's young. And I'm like, well, he's like, I don't care. We're on the leash. You can shoot him.
Right.
But are you sure you want to? And I started pulling back. I'm like, dude, he's got drop time. I'm smoking this deer. Like, and you would have swear when we found him that I killed a booner. And I think sometimes, and it's not the industry. I don't mean to say that the industry has ruined it. And it's not really a problem. I guess it's a blessing. There are so many great hunters in the industry.
No doubt. That
we are seeing so many world-class 170, 180, 190 inch deer hit the ground that we're not realizing that without not knowingly, like, we're kind of discrediting these great 130 and 140 inch deer.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
It's like, it's you people will come to my house, and it's happened to myself before. I've sat in my my living room and looking at my man cave, and I've got a wall full of just 120s and a bunch of 135 to 150 inch deer. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Then I'll go to a friend's house somewhere for the weekend that is big time on these shows. Then I come back to my house and I'm like, man, I've got a bunch of dinks on the wall. But I don't. I really don't. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, somebody that actually hunts in Indiana with me, which is a mecca state. Indiana, especially Northeast Indiana, we've got great deer.
Absolutely.
Like, we just have a county road every square mile, so it's hard to get a 3-year-old to make it to a 4 or 5-year-old. But there are people that are doing it. You'll get friend of ours to come over the house, and I'll just watch them, and I'm like staring at my wall, and I'm thinking, I'm waiting for them to say, damn, man, like, you've been on TV, you hunted with the best, and this is all you've killed. But they don't. They turn around, and these are people that lived in Indiana their whole life and hunted their whole life, and they're like, man, I can't imagine killing that many giants.
Right. Yeah.
And you think, and you're like, you almost like want to smack yourself in the face, like, damn, Lundy, you're a dumbass. Like, like, don't take for granted. Like, what you're doing is good. Like, so when it does that, it gets me, like, I turn around and get excited again. I'm like, man, I can't wait to shoot that deer that we weren't sure we were going to shoot this year. Like, I hope he comes out next week, So,
it's all about perspective, and that's what, if you're wanting to kill those big 5.5-year-old deer, and that's what you want to do, that's awesome. You got to let those younger ones walk, right? But if you're out there for the experience of it, and you want to kill those deer, and and there's areas where it's like you're talking about, it's hard to get deer to 4.5 years old. It's hard to get deer to 3.5-year-old in places. So you got to kind of take into consideration what's in your area and what you can consider a trophy. I think social media probably does a disservice to that too, because guys only see these giant deer, and then when somebody's posting a 120-inch buck that may be the biggest deer in their neighborhood, everybody rags on him because, oh, you killed a 3.5-year-old deer and he needed 2 more years and he's not big enough to shoot. Well, for his area, that might be, the equivalent to a 180-inch deer in southeast Iowa.
I love it when I see these videos all the time, and I hope people don't think I'm trying to be an asshole, 'cause I'm not. But they'll post these videos and they'll be like, man, what age do you think? And I'm okay with that because I love learning and aging deer and stuff. And but then someone say, pass or don't pass. You were on this trip for a week, and everyone's like, pass him. He's only 4. Man, he's probably not even 4, maybe 3. Pass him. And we're talking like 145-inch deer.
Yeah.
And you look at some of these people, and it's like, man, that deer is unbelievable. I'd shoot it. And then people are knocking them back.
Yeah.
They're like, man, that's why you'll never. And I always give a thumbs up and say, I'm letting it fly.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, granted, if I could take, and most of us can't, and if I could take a month off and spend a month in Kansas or a month in Illinois, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking every day, don't work. And I was on that 200-300 acre farm. Okay, maybe I'll wait for that 5-year-old deer, but it's when you say, hey, you got to go to work for 2 weeks, and you're looking forward to that week and a half you're taking off to go to deer camp, and lucky for me with filming and stuff like that, like I get to go on multiple of those week trips. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but I also only got a week to get it done. So I'm going to take the most respectful deer that I feel that gets me worked up and is going to do it for me. It's, and I go home empty-handed a lot. And sometimes when I go home empty-handed, I'm like, there are times I'm like, man, I should have shot that deer. And I'm thinking the reason why I didn't, and the reason why I went home empty-handed, one, sometimes it just wasn't there. But if it was, a lot of times it's because I was worried about what everyone else would think.
Yep.
I'm like, what the heck are you doing that for? Who cares?
Exactly. That's the thing. If it's the deer that makes you happy, then by all means shoot it. I mean, to me, that's what it's about. It's not what's the guys on Facebook or Instagram going to think, or what's my neighbor going to think about it. If that's the deer that makes you happy and that's the one you want to shoot the thing, and it's about more than the inches of the antler too. I guarantee you, when you look at those, you're talking about sitting in your house and looking at those deer, you remember more than just the shot on that deer.
Every story. I'm talking from the walk-in to the walk-out.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely. That's me, that's what it's about.
I don't blame some of I am envious of some of these. Like, I don't expect, someone like Mark Jury or, Leokowski. I don't expect them to shoot a 3.5-year-old deer. And I'd be honest, I'd almost be like, man, why did you do that? When me, I would. And not that I'm better than them or they're better than me as far as a person, but I wouldn't expect that out of them because they're legends, Right. To me, I respect the fact that they have these big farms. They turned them into what they did. That's hard work. Like, we can't discredit that.
Absolutely.
And I love it when they kill giants because I know how hard they worked for it.
Yes.
But a lot of those guys, and I'll be just personally working with Mark and, Terry and being on the team, they expect me to go out and shoot, a 3.5, 4-year-old. In that 5 days I had to get on the trip in my own property on a 42-acre piece, in Illinois. They expect that out of me, and they get excited about it, and they're like, way to go, that great deer, Lundy. Like, they understand that, and that's probably one of the biggest things, not the whole industry as a whole, that I got away from being with juries. Like, there's so many different members out there, and I thought I was going to be laughed at. I thought I was so out of my league. And, I was kind of proud. Like, I wasn't out of my league. I think I didn't represent the big giant killing people because I didn't have the ground for it. But I think I represented juries in a positive, and I think I represented, people like me and you, the everyday person. And when it came time, it was one of the hardest things for me to walk away. It's just, you're expected a lot, and you should, because it's a pristine type company. It's, they're just masters when it comes to deer hunting. But I noticed, like, during the hunting season, it was okay. I was getting back for opening week of gun season, this or that. And then 3, 4 years later, I'm like, man, Kansas is rock and rolling this time of the year. And I'd be telling my son, hey, listen, actually, you can't come out of Kansas. We're going to be going to Texas together. Don't forget that. And we're going to do our early season hunt together.
Mm-hmm.
But for the gun season, you're just going to, stay home with the family. I'll be back in a week and we'll hunt the second gun. You'll still be able to get a good deer. Like,
right.
I'm like, man, I'm taking away.
Yep.
Indiana's his home state.
Mm-hmm.
Every little boy out here looks forward to opening day.
Right.
And he's missing it because dad's going to try to get 3 deer killed this week, one in Kansas, one in Illinois, and then make it back from the end. And I'm thinking, man, I got to stop that, man. I got, and last year, like, I'm like, no, I will be home opening weekend for Indiana. And then I will go to Illinois. And then I will. And it was like, okay, so if I'm hitting Illinois and I'm hitting Kansas and not a prime time, and I don't kill that deer of a lifetime, but I made a lifetime of memories opening week with my son.
Yep.
Like,
that's
to
worth
me,
it,
I'm like,
right?
yeah, I'm like, I have time. But the good thing is, me still filming hard now, and my son, he can run a camera better than I ever could now.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be long before we're just, and I don't know where the road would be. Well, it would be, a few years down the line, we kind of, my son's up to par and he's where I am, kind of like John Odell is a legend in my mind on Drury Outdoors, him and his son, maybe one of those things, my son, gets done with high school and it's like, hey man, let's start filming again. We start producing some hunt for Drury's again, but like at that moment, what I was telling it, I just didn't have the time and the money, and money does have a lot to do with it too, because, okay, yeah, granted, I may get the opportunity to go on some trips that some people can't, but you still got to get there financially. You still got to buy that $500-$600 tag. You still got to feed yourself for a week. And I'm like, wait a minute. So the last couple of years, me and my son, we just been, okay, this is when you can get off school. We're going turkey hunting. You can get off school in the summer. We're going to go on a gator hunt. We're going to film it. Let's go to this deer hunt. And then we're going to go to Kentucky. And that, and the last 2-3 years, sometimes we had some phenomenal years and sometimes we don't. And then last year we weren't tied in with any show or nothing. We had the year of, I think me and my son knocked down like 7-8 deer, like that's all on film. It's like unbelievable, you know?
Yeah.
So,
let's back up just a little bit, because you moved, about what age were you when you moved to Indiana from out east? And I guess, was that after the military? Yeah.
I've been in Indiana now. I mess up. Me and my wife here to tell me my age. I'm 44. I'll be 45. So I'm 44. I moved here probably when I was 22, 23. So over 20 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So got out of the military and stuff like that, and then moved here and got my foot in the door with law enforcement. And then naturally with the beard, I kind of worked for, some local agencies and stuff for the state of Indiana, just as a regular patrol officer, and then made my way to a narcotics task force working undercover at a state jurisdiction type level. And then we had some cases that went pretty good, kind of, multiple states and stuff that was tied in different places. And then I eventually transferred over to a federal task force working with a federal narcotics agency.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but
it sounds like it.
As soon as I moved to Indiana, that's when the deer hunting went to full bore mode, and we haven't stopped yet. So
yeah. So when in that timeline did you kind of hook up with the Drury guys and get in on that, and how did that all come about?
That happened. I probably, like I said, when I first moved here, it was only a year or so after that we purchased a little bit of ground down in southern Illinois, and when I was down there, I always kind of filmed my hunts, just to have the memories and stuff. And
right. Yep.
I traveled for a little bit with some people that running a camera for some guys that did some waterfowl hunting and everything. And when Drury's came along, I was actually working like a lot of undercover. So I wasn't really filming myself, and it's not like myself could be on TV because I was working a lot of undercover cases at the time.
Hey, now, wait a minute. I recognize this guy.
Yeah, we still run informants and stuff like that now, but I don't do as much undercover. So that's when I was like, all right, now I can turn the page a little bit.
Right.
But when I started doing that, I kind of became friends with a couple of guys from Drury, especially down there in southern Illinois. You got guys like several different people hunt down there. You got Kelly Turner, Brick Stewart. He's been on Bow Madness forever. I just became good buddies with them, and then just little by little, just filming some stuff, and whether it's helping other people out or filming things for myself, and talking to Matt Drury, he's like, hey, he knew being in law enforcement. I don't know. I was with them for, damn, it seemed like forever, but it really wasn't. But I've been gone with them for about 2-3 years now. I mean, I still stay in touch and everything, but I don't know. I'd say probably about 10 years ago, I started to go ahead and really was kind of hanging out with a lot of guys from that, and just, whether going over to their farms, helping them with things. And then Matt said, hey, why don't we do, let's film like a hunt, but like something to do with law enforcement and military and stuff like that, So I had a turkey hunt that we filmed, and it was just, a hunt down in Southern Illinois. We ended up getting a smash on a bird, and he took it, and the juries went ahead and edited it, but it was kind of introducing me to, people that were Drury's fans. Hey, this is Sean. He's a fan of ours, a good friend of ours, and ended up doing pretty good. So he's like, hey, if you want to continue filming some of your stuff, we'll use it on Drury's Natural Born, which is a great show that I don't think gets enough credit. It's on Sportsman's Channel. It's unbelievable. It's I think one of the main sponsors is Winchester. So
yeah,
I'm like, okay, that'd be kind of cool. And then what happened is Dream Season kind of, that, I'm not going to say it got replaced, because then they had the Dream Season Live that kind of went to like an app, in the Deercast app, where like when Dream Season, if someone's hunting next week, you're going to see the Dream Season hunt like a week later. You don't have to wait a year, And it went on to their Deercast app, which is unbelievable. There's more video content on that than you can take a stick at.
I bought that just so I could watch the old VHS that I grew up on.
Besides the fact that and I was always a big fan of Drury's. Like, I watched every one of their tapes,
Oh yeah.
But when they came up with that app, that app's awesome for deer prediction and learning stuff.
It is.
It's awesome just for the fact that man, if you're anywhere and you got internet service, you can be in hunting camp. You can watch every Mossy Oak and every Drury Outdoors show from the beginning of time.
Oh yeah, we're talking the big frame glasses, Mark and Terry.
Yes. Huge camcorders over the shoulders,
Yep.
So I just started. Well, what happened then? Critical Mass came out, and they had an opening, and they said, "Hey, let's, come on to Critical Mass." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, man!" And I killed some deer that year, and I'm like, "Dude, I've killed 2 deer. I filmed a few, but I'm like, there's no way." And they told me like the people I was going against, like on this show, and they're all like just megas in the industry, And I'm like, there's no freaking way I'm gonna go. Like, then I'm thinking, well, what am I talking about? My dad's like, or my dad, my son's like, Dad, you gotta do this. I'm like, all right, we'll do this. So the show came, and we went ahead and had our episodes on there and stuff, and became one of the Critical Mass casts. And that year, I think that was the year, man, Greg Lessiter's killed a bunch of 200-inch, but I think he killed one that year too. So we voted on the show, and he, we voted him to be, the winner, and he won. And then they had where the viewers that like watch TV get to vote who for like fan favorite. And I'm like, holy crap, we ended up winning fan favorite. I'm like,
yeah,
I probably just killed the 2 smallest deer in Drury Outdoors history.
Yeah.
And how the heck does my dumbass win fan favorite,
Yep.
And all of a sudden, so we start doing it for again, and then next year comes up again, and they're like, well, we're just going to let the viewers pick, instead of the cast members voting, we'll let the viewers pick, and so I killed a couple more deer, still nothing great, and sitting there watching TV, and some of it's pre-recorded, but you really don't know who wins,
Right.
And I'm sitting there watching the TV, and all of a sudden it's like a week ahead of time, the fans out there actually get to call into the app and vote, and I end up winning the Can-Am and winning the whole show, like fan favorite again. I'm like, I'll never forget, I was in tears. I'm like, what is going on? And the phone rings, and it was Mark called me, and in my mind, I'm like all I could tell him is like, Mark, like, I'm sorry that I killed Dinks, but like, I promise next year I'll up my game, and I'll never forget. Like, this shows the trueness and the love for the outdoors for Mark and Terry Drury, and Mark himself said, don't, like, you keep doing what you do.
That's awesome.
Like, do not like, just do that. This is what, it's what people have got away from. Like, and that's what's so, in my mind, was so special about, Drury's, which it's the same thing like with Fred Eichler. Like, I'm a huge fan of Fred Eichler because the guy has killed giants,
Mm-hmm.
but he will also go out there with a stick and a string
Yeah.
and just kill a deer and get so worked up over it. You're like, that's me. I can relate to
Yep.
that. Like
Yep.
that guy just shot a 4-pointer, on a do-it-yourself hunt in the mountains of
Yeah.
Montana.
Right.
And people, but what's cool about it is people like, in the way they're thinking like, man, why do you shoot that? But then those same people in the same way are going, who cares? It's Fred Eichler. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right.
And it makes you feel like, dang, I can't wait to go out next week now. I'm going to kill a dink too. I'm going to
Exactly.
have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that why we're out there, right?
It should be. Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah,
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then, I had several years after that where I just, really just started having a lot of fun with juries. And it was getting to the point where I'm like, and my son, we talk about it now, but I'm like, damn, I kind of missed that.
mm-hmm.
And I looked at like, okay. And then I'm like, man, wish I'd have done that with my daughters. And I did,
Right.
and then I'm like, man, I didn't. Like,
Right.
so when I walked away, like, I talked to Mark and Taylor and Matt and all them. And, I think I just couldn't stress to them. I said, listen to me. Like and I hope to this day, I mean, I still talk to them every once in a while. I mean, heck, in January, we go down to Taylor's husband's, Austin's place down in Texas, me and my son, even we're going back again this year. I'm like, I hope they really understood why. But like, like I told them, I said, because there's people that leave and start their own shows and try to do something. And,
right.
I explained to them, like, I'm not doing that. You're not going to see me leave this year. And then also next year, you're like, oh man, he jumped ship. He went to right. I'm not doing that. Like you'll see me from time to time, like promote Deercast. And I still, live and breathe Mossy Oak. And I still promote, the shows that are on TV. It's like, I will always be a huge fan of the juries. It's just, I was like, right now, let me just slow down for a little bit.
Yeah.
Get my son Cole up to par where he needs to be. And I could see it now. I could see my son in a few years saying, Dad, guess what, man? Move over. You can be my cameraman, but I'm gonna start filming full time for juries.
Yeah.
He'll be begging Mark, let me on, man. This is what I want to do. And at that point, I'll be okay with it. Just to hand the reins and just go full force for the next 20 years. It's just the kids were right in that age, and you can look at some of the original hunts of my son. 6, 7, 8 years old on Drury Outdoors, and it was an awesome moment for him. But you don't want to take away from that.
Right. Yep.
He still has to enjoy what the fundamentals are hunting. In my mind, I wanted to instill that in him before, because everyone thinks it's easy to go out there and shoot a deer on camera, and it's not.
No.
And as a child, you miss out on a lot of opportunities. Like, hats off to the Odells and Taylor, growing up. It's all she knows, like everyone may look at it like, well, she's killing these big deer because of who. Do you know how many opportunities she's missed out? Do you know how many opportunities she didn't get because they are doing everything they can to create the perfect hunt so we can be shared with it at home watching it? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I guess I was a little selfish. Like, hey, listen, like, I want to give my viewers this, but I also want to give my son what he needs, and I don't want to jip him out of it. So
yeah, and I think, obviously that's understandable, and that's just kind of phases of life, I think, and that's part of the reason it's important not to burn bridges. Like, if you would have left out of there, and not made it clear what you were doing, or did, like I'm sure some people have done, and just try to build off of the name that they were able to, that they had there, it might have been different. But now, like you said, if your boy wants to do that in a few years, it sounds like that relationship's probably still there where something could happen.
Yeah, I hope so.
Right.
I try to still stay in good and talk to them from time to time. I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, I was just talking to Mark because he's got that new grandbaby, Taylor and Austin had the grandkid and stuff. And he was sending me a couple of pictures of him and his wife with the grandbaby. But it's like, like they, a lot of times when people leave, they always think like, oh man, what happened? I wonder why they left. And then they're waiting for the next 6 months for the big thing, let's see why they left or why they're not together no more. And you know what? And then all of a sudden something big comes out. It's like, oh, that's why. Well, here we are 2-3 years later, nothing. That's truly why I left. There was nothing out of it,
Right.
So
yeah. And that's relationships are so important in everything, but especially seems like in this industry. And that's something I've come to find, or we have on the podcast. And we've been doing it for almost 2 years now, so not terribly long, but in that short amount of time, it's really opened my eyes to just how small. It's a huge industry, don't get me wrong, but how
And
small.
bridges fast.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows everybody, and if they don't, they know someone who knows them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yep. So
Absolutely.
if you do burn a bridge with somebody, it may not just be with that person either. And if you have that good relationship with somebody, then maybe that person vouches for you, and you get to open the door to another opportunity. So,
Yeah, and it can be cutthroat too, and that's why you have
yep.
to, you have to be careful. Like, I mean, you will find a group of people where you're out having beers at night. You're like, man, what's the deal with that guy? But like,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, some of the people that have you've seen them for a year. You're like, man, who's this new up and comer? And then you never hear from them again.
Right.
And it's because they weren't in it for the right reason, And
Mm-hmm.
to this day, I still try to make it to all the shows and make it to the ATA, and just to be with some of the great, people that I've met through the industry. And, at times you get a little brokenhearted when you got maybe two people that aren't, seeing eye to eye anymore. It's like you don't want to get stuck in the middle, and the
Mm-hmm.
best thing to do is just kind of, definitely stand up for what you believe in, but like, don't try to burn them bridges, And
Yeah.
to me, I just almost try to be kind of mediated everything. Like, hey, this is like, we're blessed for what we can do, and we're blessed for the places we get to go. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
you like you said again, you really don't want to burn those bridges and stuff, because yes, it's a big thing, the outdoor industry, and it's huge to be part of it. But once you start being part of it, man,
Mm-hmm.
it could take just burning the wrong bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll you'll
Yep.
never be any part of it again.
Yep.
And that's what's good now. Like, there's some hunts that we've been on the last couple of years that we've had friends of ours that are like, hey, can you mind if we just use that footage as a guest, And I'm like, absolutely, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing's really been said about it, because it's not like I did that and went off and started a new show. It was just
Right.
someone maybe wanted to bring, some content or some new eyeballs to their show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, a friend of ours right now, like, we're going to be filming all this year, and some of our footage, I'm like, absolutely, I'd love for you to showcase, just a memory that me and my son made, in the outdoors, this or that. And, it's his sponsors are not his sponsors, like my sponsors are my own sponsors and his sponsors are his, but
Mm-hmm.
we're just going to be showcased on there. You see that a lot with some of your, like, you have, okay, Drury's and stuff like that with Mossy Oak, and you have, Bone Collectors and Waddell and them, like
Mm-hmm.
Realtree. But you also see Mossy Oak and Realtree. They also have several different shows throughout the outdoor network.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see a lot of people on that show, and you might see a show that's put on by Mossy Oak, and you will all of a sudden see hunts from maybe somebody that's on Drury Outdoors on that Mossy Oak show.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll see, Pat and Nicole Reeve on that show because they're part of the Mossy Oak, and it's, I like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's
Yep.
maybe this isn't actually their show, but they're friends of Mossy Oak and
Yeah.
they're partners. And so, and by doing that, I don't really think you're burning any bridges. I think some of the people that forget to where they came from, like, I will never forget where I came from,
Yeah.
Drury's, and maybe this is as far as I'll go, or maybe, I'll venture back and be there. I don't be back again. I won't
Mm-hmm.
forget where I come from. But some people, they do that, and I've heard it. And not just with Drury's, like other shows. I know people that have been with big shows, and they're on that show for a year or two, and then they leave, and they're like, well, they should do. And it's like, man, are you
Mm-hmm.
even realizing how much goes into producing a show?
Yeah.
They gave you the opportunity to be on this for a couple of years, and now you're going to try to stick one up their
Yep.
ass, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And then when they go to another one and they realize how hard it is, but and they just tried to hang their hat on, well, this is who
Yeah.
I was with. This is,
Uh-huh.
it's like, you really just kind of be blessed for what you have and take the opportunity. And yeah,
No doubt.
walking away from Drury's was probably one of my hardest decisions ever. But
Yeah.
after a few weeks of, just relaxing a little bit, and I'm back with it with sponsors as far as with, promotions
Mm-hmm.
and social promotions and small little TV promotions. But when I took a break from Drury's and, like, I concentrated on just my kids in the outdoors, I did have a big relief taken off. Not
Yeah.
because I wasn't with Drury's anymore, because I can concentrate. Because when I was with Drury's, I 100% wanted to promote them every way I can. And it was getting to the point where felt like I was doing great things for them. And I'm like, man, like, it could be something simple, like pulling up in a car. Hey, man, I got to post this right now. And then your wife sends, hey, your daughter just scored. And I'm like, oh my God, like, she just went in 10 minutes before I did, and I'm in the car
Mm-hmm.
trying to get and it's nobody's fault but
Right.
my own,
Right.
and I'm like, gosh, or you're doing something, your kids are like, hey dad, I'm like, hold on, I gotta do this, or hold on, I gotta go ahead and I was supposed to get this done, but and I'm thinking, what am I doing, man? Like, if I
Yeah.
wasn't at this point in my kid's life, we would be doing this together, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
so,
And some of that is sacrifice that you have to make because that
yeah.
whatever phase of life you're in. But then when you do get to that point where, like you said, you kind of get tired of it or missing out on stuff, and you realize it is time to maybe make a decision for your family in your case,
Hmm.
or whatever situation it may be, then it's time to do that. And it sounds like you're kind of at peace with that, which is good. And I think that means that you did it for the right reason.
And I think we're building, like we talked in the beginning, like we're building. I still will never forget it came from Drew's, but
Right. Right.
right now, me and my son, and we're kind of like building who we are now, like the whole Lundy life. This is who we are. Like
Yeah.
and maybe the Lundy Life crew, Sean and Cole, will be back 20 years from now,
Yeah.
and it would be 10 years strong going, freaking slamming deer for juries. And it's like, you have the Lundy family. Here they are, the
Yep.
Lundy Life crew. Sean and Cole, they're their own team. Like you had the Odell crew, and
Mm-hmm.
all, and Jennings and Brandon with his sons and stuff. But like right now, like we're still trying to go strong in the industry and promote some great sponsors, some great partnerships. And that's when me and my good friend Lance, we're into fitness, but we're into just being proud to be a hunter and an American and everything else. And that's when a couple years back, we launched that rugged apparel company,
Yeah, that's what
and that's
I
just,
was getting ready to
yeah,
ask you
just,
about that. Uh, kind of moving in, I guess, moving on from jewelry now, and you've got into this rugged apparel. And as you kind of just mentioned about being proud to be an outdoorsman and an American,
yeah,
which is what we're all about. We got a quick little tangent. My sister does some like graphic design work and stuff like that, and she does signs for people. So she got a gift from one of the companies she works with the other day. They just sent it to her for free. It's like a printed out plastic sign of the Constitution. And she was like, "Does anybody want this thing?" I was like, "Shoot, yeah, that's going in the studio." Because
yeah,
what recording studio doesn't need a Constitution in it? So
absolutely.
I can get on board with all of that stuff. But yeah, why don't you
Yeah.
tell everybody about Rugged Apparel a little bit?
Yeah. It was weird because like I try to, stay in shape just because my job with law enforcement and everything else and hunting. I mean, you got to be in shape if you really want to get out there and hunt as
Mm-hmm.
much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But, we, it's like you find these clothes. And the friend of mine, he had he was making, a couple shirts and stuff like that. And so I'm like, he reached out to me like, yeah, let me, try some of them. So I went ahead and wore them. I'm like, man, these things are great. Like they fit good. And
Mm-hmm.
even when you got a little dad belly, I'm like, man, it makes it look like you don't have one. You feel good. And then
Yep.
you start looking a little better. You start working out harder. You're feeling great.
Yep.
Then he's like, man, what do you think about if we did a shirt like this and made another shirt like that? And then I told him, I'm like, hey, for kind of like deer camp and stuff like that, I kind of want to come out with some like Lundy Life logos, this is just who me and my son and my family is now, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just get my daughters to wear these cool hats. And we just made this little logo and, and then some pro patriotic stuff like 1776.
Oh yeah.
This is just, it's what this, country's been founded on, and
Yep.
we started coming out with that. And, he's like, hey man, do you mind if a couple buddy of mine want these shirts? I'm like, no, man, make a few extras, sell them,
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, a couple of them workout shirts you had, like, can you send me a couple? He's like, yeah, just send me a few bucks. I'll get them made. And then people started doing it. And then next thing you know, it's like, now I have daughters and my wife and, my buddy, his cat, his girlfriend's like, man, these pants, I'm like, man, let's try to, you ever think about these kind of leggings? So we designed a pair of leggings and I'm like, and I didn't even know what squat proof is. And my daughters they're like, hey, like when you squat, even a black pair of leggings, like when you squat, when they stretch, you don't want to be able to see like your underwear through.
Right.
I'm like, well,
Right.
how could you? They're black. I don't get it. And they're like, no, they got to be squat proof. I'm like, well, I don't know what the heck that means, but
Yeah.
so I'm like, so we came out with these leggings and my daughters, they'd be like, yeah, these aren't good. So we send them back and I put it Lance. And next thing you know, it kind of took off from there. So like, and the same thing, it's fishing. And so we have, kind of like, the SPF 50 fishing shirts now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got lifestyle sweatshirts that are unbelievable that I promise you will the sweatshirt material will match any company out there.
Mm-hmm.
But these are all things that we didn't just go somewhere generic and buy 10,000 shirts
Right.
and then just put stuff on them. Like, these are all originally done in-house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many pair of leggings are, like, right now we've been demoing these pants, and they're not out yet. They'll probably come out in another year, but like, you know, like a lifestyle, just kind of work pants. You can wear them out
Mm-hmm.
to dinner. They look nice. You can wear them to church, but you can also wear them to trim tree stands, and they don't sag.
Yeah.
The waist and the crotches, they stretch, you know, they're not tearing out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a rugged, like, you know, in the beginning, you know, we're like, man, we just want to do something for that, like, rugged lifestyle. And it just kind of took off from there. And I'll be honest, it's like overwhelming in such a good way now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so many people are supporting us, and it's to the point where we'll come out with stuff, and then like we launch the fishing stuff, and boom, it's just, before you know it, after like 5 days, we're like, man, we underestimated that, you know.
Yeah.
So we had
Yeah.
to take them online, and then a week later put them back online, and it's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really been going good. And it's, yeah, the name of the company's Rugged, you know, kind of spelled untraditionally because we're a little out there at times, you know. It's RUGG apostrophe D,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Rugged Apparel, but it's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's really going good. But I mean, from everything from hats to t-shirts to sweatshirts to tank tops to leggings, you know, cutoff shirts for guys, leggings for girls, fishing
Mm-hmm.
shirts. There's so much more that we actually are sampling now, and some things that we're having redesigned, like
Right.
the apparel pants for guys, the leggings / like biker shorts for girls, that we knew a lot of girls were talking about that. Some of my daughters, you know, they're all in sports. We're talking about like special types of like sport bras, not actually like, but like bras you can almost wear to the gym, and they're very appropriate looking.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
almost like a tank top, but it's kind of, so the sky's the limit. Like, we're really, it's just, and that's the thing. We're a small company now, which I'd like to keep it small,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, everybody wants to go big, but not too big, because of the fact that we've had people that say, hey, listen, this doesn't fit right. And the cool thing, them being able to message, you know, our website, and the people that are working for us be able to message back personally and
Right.
send them. And that's, you know, and it's nothing against other big companies out there, but sometimes you get something, you're just stuck with it.
Yeah.
You know, they're selling millions of them, and we want to get to the point where we're enjoying it. You know, we're not able to be successful in it, but not overgrow our personal relationship with our customers. So
Yeah, that's worth a lot.
yeah,
Just being able to talk to the guy who is running the company. That's part of the
yeah,
reason we
absolutely.
work with the seed guy that we work with. Is like, if I call up there, I'm getting him. You know, if a customer calls up there with a question, they're getting the guy that runs the place, or his right hand man. You know,
And
that's worth a lot.
majority of my sponsors, and there are several sponsors out there that I had the opportunity to partner with,
Mm-hmm.
that were big companies, that it would have been a good sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 reasons I didn't partner with them. One, at least one of the 2. One would be, I really just didn't believe in it, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to push it and be a sales pitch, and, you know, be like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to support something that in my mind I think is junk,
Right. Yep.
and, you know, cost an arm and a leg. You know, so I wanted to keep stuff that the everyday guy can afford. You know, it may not be the best this on the market, but it's something that your everyday guys like me are trying to go down to Rural King or something, or Track Supply,
Yeah.
and buy, because they can afford it.
Yep.
They don't have to go to a special website because the thing costs $1,000.
Right.
Or the other reason is being able to not talk to either one of the head guys or the owner itself and say, hey, listen, can you do me a favor? Like the same
Mm-hmm.
thing you just talked about, my seed and mineral guy. I literally just talked to them a while back. They are huge. Like, it's my seed sponsor and mineral sponsor, Deer 30.
Mm-hmm.
Their minerals are unbelievable. It's to the point where I don't know if they should, like, you can't make bigger bags of minerals because
Yeah.
they would just go through it.
Right.
But you got to be it's unbelievable. It's not a mineral that is, a lot of the minerals out there are like 95% salt,
Yeah.
and 5% minerals.
Yep.
Well, this is, you know, like 40, 50, 60% minerals and the rest salt. So they're actually getting it, and the deer are consuming it.
Mm-hmm.
And their seed blend, it's, you know, there's times that I've been using their seed blend here or there, and for probably the last, you know, 10, 15 years or so, like the seeds they're using, they just have certain things. So when I broke away, and nothing with Mossy Oak, they have some of the most phenomenal seeds under there. But like, there was a company that I'm like, man, I remember working with them back in the day. They're great. And the stuff they have now it's unbelievable. And the best thing about it is when you reach out to them, it's not, hey, I've tried to reach out to them all year, I've been able to get a hold of nobody. They haven't, I guess, like corporate yet, you know what I'm saying? They didn't go to, so it's not a company that owns a company that owns 5 companies, and the person that owns all of this has nothing to do with the outdoor industry.
Right.
These are hunter and fishermen themselves, and it was just kind of cool to give them a call and say, hey, listen, I also what do you think about this? And to get that advice, hey man, listen, try doing this, and not yet, don't do that yet, you want to do this for, I like that, and a couple of the other companies I'm with, like Buck Fever, I can personally just call the owner, say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? He's like, okay, sounds good, but try this. And then I can get back to him on that when some of the other and it's stuff that I believe in, when some of the other companies from the get-go, some of them are great products. They are, some of the best out there. But if you do, because nothing's perfect, you're going to have some hiccups.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
If you can't get an answer, like, that sucks.
Yeah,
I wanted to partner with people, like if you had a problem with somebody, if you're like, man, Lundy used them sponsors, I'm going to try it. And if you have a problem with it, and you contact me personally, if you can't get a hold of somebody there, I will be able to get a hold of someone there and answer that for you. And I wanted to be that person. And the more I grow, it's like, I don't care. I'm never going to forget where I came from. And I'm never going to not walk around the shows and talk to, some people say you're fans. They're not. To me, it's, they're friends. I don't care, 50, 60,000 friends. That's the way I look at them, and I want to be there to represent them. So partnership is very important when you're getting ready to get into a partnership with someone.
It is.
To be able to talk to someone and say, hey, bud, I'm having a situation. What do you think? All right, I'll take care of it. And that's the great thing about it. When you talk to personal people, like you said, your seed guy, if he can't come back to you today, it's because he's busy with work. It's because he has something going on at home or family. When you hang up the phone, you're kind of like, man, he's an everyday guy. You know what I'm saying? You understand they're probably dealing with the same struggles you are. To me, that speaks volume of a business owner. So
yeah, it does. I have a lot of respect for the people that work with the companies like that, like you, and that's what we do too. Like, if I don't believe something's going to work, you can offer me whatever money you want. I'm not going to go out there and tell somebody to spend their hard-earned money on it just because they were paying me to say that. I gotta use it and actually like it. And the partners that we have, it's all been that way. It's either someone that we know and respect in the first place, or something that we've used in the past and we've liked it and we've started using it that way, and that's how the partnership came about. But I think there's a lot of it in the industry where it's just, hey, whoever cuts me the biggest check, I'll push your stuff.
Yeah, and it's true, because man, it's always good to have that check to help the family, or pay for more hunts or do whatever. And I had 2 companies reach out to me about 5-6 months ago, and they were kind of tied in together, but they were different products. And okay, this is what we like to offer you. This is what the contract be, this or that. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. That they're even considering me, right? I'm like, so this is awesome. We'll do this. And they're like, hey, we seen, how you helped out this company, that company, whatever. I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Let's so what do you offer them? I was like excited at first, and then I found out what it was, and I thought, man, that's good money. And that's good. Not only that, like, that's I guess a cool product in it, but to me, I didn't feel like I was being fair to the company, because it's like, some things are easy to promote because the product itself sells itself. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this was one of those, it's like, I finally told them at that time, I just didn't have time for it, because I thought about it and I talked it over with my wife and stuff. It's like, how can I take that product and how can I promote that every month for this company without making it look like the same push? Like, it was one of those products that you only could do one thing with it. So the reel or the post or the pictures or whatever, it's going to be the same thing every time. So before you know it, after 2-3 months, people are looking at you thinking, you're full of crap. You don't even use that product.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
and they're right. They're right. I would be honest. My fans would be 100% right if they're like, you do not go home every day. And yeah, you're right. I don't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't want to be labeled like that. Like,
Right.
if you see me out there planting seeds, shooting my bow, that is something I am doing every day.
Yeah.
If you see me doing other stuff, it's like, no, man. It's,
yeah. And once you do that and you get that reputation, then you lose value in everything that you actually do
100%.
believe in, you know?
100%. 100%.
Yep. Well, hey, man.
It was great.
No,
I
go
talked
ahead.
about, but like, it was funny because like afterwards, my wife's like, was it seriously that's how much it was going to be, like per month? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and if I'm not going to lie, we looked at each other, we're like, should we just say heck with it? I'm like, no, you will literally like, you will blow yourself out of the industry.
Yep.
Because when everything comes to an end eventually, I don't want to be the laughing guy. It's like, dude, you completely like just like pimped yourself out there for something you didn't even believe in. You know?
Then in the long run, you end up costing yourself more money.
Yes,
potentially.
absolutely. So,
you know, yeah. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're a busy guy too.
No,
so before we get you out of here, though, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and your rugged apparel or anything else you want. Just go ahead.
Yeah. As far as the rugged apparel goes, that is going to be under ruggedapparel.com, and it's RUGG''D, and we are on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, as well as TikTok and stuff. And as far as myself, you know, I on Facebook and Instagram, but mostly Instagram, and that's going to be Sean Lundy _Lundy Life.
Okay.
So and all the shows, I will be there. I just, and all I want to do is talk hunting or everyday life. So don't be a stranger. Come on up. So
for sure. I'll link all that stuff in the description too. So anybody listening and wants to check that stuff out, I'll link it down so it'll be easy to find as well. But other than that, man, Sean, I really appreciate your time. Glad we could talk with you. We'll have to have you on again sometime if you'd be up for it.
Absolutely.
We are.
Maybe we'll do something during the season. We'll see how the season's
for
going.
Sure, man. We're far from scared of return guests here, so we'll get you scheduled out sometime.
It was great talking to you guys, man.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Sean.
You got it. Bye-bye.